Hi, ENV 201. I'm making this video for our week 2 Environment and Society lab. This is for the week of February 7th to February 13th. And I'm putting the instructions here in a video because if you can get the instructions this way, you then don't have to actually come to lab on Thursday afternoon. That would be February 11th. Instead, you can use that lab time to actually do this project. So watch this video at some point before February 11th, and then you'll have that time to complete the work then. So the lab assignment for this week is to interview a relative, and you're going to conduct an interview with a relative that helps to reveal their environmental ethics. Here in the second week of our class, we're talking about environmental ethics and the ways that our family influences the development of our personal environmental ethics. And so we're going to interview family members in order to help understand that. It's totally fine if you don't have a family member to interview. Instead, you can interview a neighbor, you could interview a teacher, you can interview a friend. I do think that it's helpful to interview somebody who can look back on decades of life. So if you can, I would interview somebody who's a bit older than you because they'll have a longer time horizon of perspective. And I think that's nice for this assignment. Also, you should make sure that the person you interview is somebody who has been influential in your life. And so if that's not a family member, it could be a sibling, an aunt or an uncle, a grandparent, a parent, a neighbor. Maybe it's somebody from your church or your faith community. A teacher, something like that. Any of those individuals are fine, but it should be somebody who has played a significant role in your life. Also, I want to be sure that you actually conduct a live interview. What I mean by a live interview is that you have to actually sit down either face-to-face or through Zoom or FaceTime or a Google Hangout and actually talk and interact with the person that you are interviewing. I don't want you to email them questions and have the person that you interview write responses to those questions that they then send you, and that's what you use. And there's important reason that I don't want you to do that. If you email somebody questions and they write responses and they're writing thoughtful responses, they may take an hour and a half or 2 hours to write those responses. The questions that we're going to ask are deep. And if your respondent is giving you thoughtful responses, it will take them a long time to write those answers. But if you sit down in an interview and you talk to them, then your interview should take somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour. And so it saves your respondent a lot of time. It's okay to email them the questions ahead of time so that they can think about them. But I don't want you to just have them write responses that you then use for your project. Okay, so there are two halves to the interviews that we are going to do, or two pieces. The first piece is that both you and the person that you are interviewing are going to take a survey. The survey that you're going to take is called the New Ecological Paradigm Survey, and the link for that is on Moodle. It's a short survey, it's 15 questions, and it probably takes maybe 5 or 6 minutes to answer all of the questions. But you and your respondent are both going to take the survey, and then you're going to have a conversation about the survey and compare your responses, and then chat about them a little bit. So the New Ecological Paradigm Survey is a survey that is used around the world to understand the environmental ethical perspectives of different communities. So children can take this survey, adults. They've used this survey in different faith-based communities to understand the ethical perspectives of different spiritual groups. It's been used to understand the ethical perspectives of prisoners, of people in different countries, of different ethnicities. And so it's a widely used survey about environmental ethics. And you and your respondent will take that survey, and then I've got 4 questions for you that I would like you to talk about with your respondent. The first question is that I'd like you to ask your respondent, what questions did you find most difficult to answer or the most thought-provoking? and then you can both share your responses to that question. The second thing that I would like you to do is to pick a question where you and your respondent have similar answers to the survey and discuss what experiences did you think about when you answered that question and why did you respond in the way that you responded. The third question that I'd like you to talk about is to pick a question where your responses are very different from your respondent and ask what do you think is behind the differences in your opinions on that question. And then finally, you should ask yourself and your respondent, what does the survey say about you or us and the way that we see the world? The questions are very broad and about kind of global perspectives on environmental issues. You'll understand what I mean by this final question once you actually see the survey. So the new ecological paradigm survey is the first half of the interview. And the second half, you're going to ask a series of questions that students in this class, Environment Society, have been asking for the past several semesters when they do this project. And so we have some really cool longitudinal data about environmental ethics, and it's consistent across the classes. And so I'll run down what those questions are. Keep in mind that these instructions that I'm giving you now and the actual questions I want you to ask are all loaded onto Moodle, so you can read this document as well, but I'll go through the questions real quickly. So these questions are designed to help your respondent talk about their environmental ethics and what shaped them, and for you to then think about what shaped your environmental ethics and to have a conversation about that. The first question that I want you to ask is, what are some of your favorite outdoor activities? Have these changed over your life, such as since you were younger up until now? And can you describe a favorite outdoor memory from when you were a child? The next question is, what are your favorite outdoor places? When do you go to this place? What about this place do you love? What do you do there? Who do you go with? And how is this place important to you? Next, I want you to ask, can you think of a particular person that was important in teaching you about the environment? Could be a relative, a teacher, a friend, or a neighbor. What do you recall about what this person taught you? And how did this person impact your perspective on the environment? Next, we want to understand our respondents' perspective on climate change. And we're going to do that by talking about changing weather patterns. So the questions are, talk about your experiences with severe storms. How have storms and weather patterns changed over your lifetime? Do you have a memory from a severe storm or a weather event? And do you observe the climate changing around you today? Next, a common change that has occurred in many people's lives over the past, the past several decades are changing in energy and heating systems. So we're going to ask about that. Energy and heating systems have changed a great deal over the past century. How did your family heat your home when you were a child? How do you heat your home now? What other sources of heat have you used in your life? And then we're going to ask a similar set of questions about how we purchase food and food systems. How did your family typically obtain food when you were a child? How do you get most of your food now? Do you grow any of your own food, or have you ever grown any of your own food? Finally, we're going to ask some questions about concern for the environment compared to other global challenges. We want to understand people's the way that people prioritize environmental issues compared to others. So the question is, how does your concern for the environment compare to other global challenges like poverty, malnutrition, healthcare, and education? Have your concerns changed over time? So those are the two sets of questions that you will ask your respondent. You are going to first take the new ecological paradigm survey, and you will take it and your respondent will take it. And then you'll discuss your responses through the questions that I gave you. And then you'll kind of switch gears and ask them the set of questions that I just described about changes in the way this person interacts with the environment over time. In total, your interview will take probably somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour, The New Ecological Paradigm Survey takes somewhere between, maybe 5 to 8 minutes to take, and then you'll discuss it for 15 minutes or so. And then the second set of questions probably takes about 30 minutes to describe in a thoughtful way. I want to be sure that you invite your respondent to the interview. So either send them an email or ask them in person if they will do it. Describe what the interview is about and how long it will take. Describe that the information that comes from the interview will only be reported in our class. It won't go beyond our class, and we'll just discuss it. And if your person really wants to remain anonymous or have their confidentiality protected, then we can be sure to do that as well. But none of these questions are highly personal or invasive or anyway, so that's never been an issue in class before. You then will take notes during the interview and get some quotes from your discussion from the person that you interview, and you're going to integrate their responses along with your own thoughtfulness about environmental ethics into your blog for this week. So there's no additional way to turn this assignment in. It will just be your blog. We'll talk about it in class on Friday, so you do want to have it completed by Friday, and then you'll turn in your write-up about this will become your blog that's due on Sunday. In the written document that describes this assignment, there's a series of bullet points that describe some key topics that you might want to think about as you write your blog. You can check those out in the written document that's on Moodle. Essentially, those key topics that you want to discuss are related to our class conversation about environmental ethics. So you want to relate what you learned from the interview to what we talk about in class and what's in the readings and the other media that we use this week in lab. So you want to be thinking about topics like anthropocentrism and ecocentrism and social ecology. These are all things that we're talking about in class this week, and will make sense to you as you do the readings and things that are on Moodle and in our Adobe Spark, and as you're in class. So if you have questions after watching this video, feel free to email me or come to office hours, or let me know, and I can hold a class on Thursday at 1 o'clock as we normally would for lab. But if you don't have questions about the assignment, if you're all good, then I would use that time on Thursday when normally we would be in lab to actually do the interview. So early in the week, you should send an email to the person that you want to interview and invite them and designate that 1 to 3 time on Thursday as a time when you're available. It's fine if you do the interview at another time as well, but I'm giving you that space in order to do it. So please let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to hearing about your interview experience. Thanks.